it's Yasmin here. Thank you so much for buying my new book, the Mercury Retrograde book, which I've co-authored with the fabulous Kim Farnell. I'm very excited that you've done it. I'm very excited you've downloaded this little free mini, I can't even really call it a workshop, can I? It's more like an explanation for how to tell where Mercury is retrograde in your chart anytime. So the first thing you're going to need to do is you're going to need to print out your chart, okay? Print out your chart, which you can do if you haven't already done so at moonmessages.com/free chart. moonmessages.com/free chart. Now, what I've got here is I've got Lady Gaga's chart, all right? I just thought I quite like Lady Gaga. I thought she's a good one to use, a good person whose chart we can use. So now what I want to do first of all is I want to just give you a mini guided tour of an astrology chart. And the first thing I would say is, for our purposes, don't worry too much about all these squiggles, you could call them, all the squiggles here. You don't really need to worry about them, because they are all the planets. And you know, as you get into astrology, you may want to know where all your planets are and what it all means, but for the purposes of understanding Mercury retrograde, you actually don't need to. So you could almost print that out, print out your chart and just, you know, white paper them all out if they confuse you, because I know people find it confusing. Once you get to understand it all, it's honestly a piece of cake. What you really need to pay attention to, and do not white paper it out, are the numbers at the center of the chart. So whether you've got the chart from my site or this, which I've got from Solarfire, the program Solarfire, there are always numbers at the beginning, at the middle of the chart. And what these are, this is the houses, okay? The houses. You've probably heard of the houses. The houses are basically the 12 segments of a chart, on every chart. They're the 12 segments that cover off pretty much your entire life, okay? So how is this so? Because each house, each segment covers a different part of life. So you get the first house, number one, the first house, that's the rising sign there. So whatever sign you have at 9 o'clock, that's your rising sign. So in the first house, that's your appearance, the way you come across in the world. It's the first thing that people see about you. It's the front door to your chart, really. The second house is cash, property, and possessions. Okay, cash, property, and possessions. There is a resource to go with this, don't worry, that will list all the meanings of the houses. The third house is communication, short trips, and siblings, among other things, but they're kind of the headlines. Headlines for the fourth house are home and family, okay? Home and family. Fifth house, children, creativity, and romance, okay? That's the light-hearted romance part of the chart. Sixth house is your daily work and health routines. Seventh house, the seventh house is your love zone, so it's going to be quite important. So that's the love zone, basically. It's also open enemies, just for the record. The eighth house, effectively, sex and money, death, taxes, rebirth, all that kind of stuff. And then we get the ninth house, which is right there, and that is study, adventure, the great cosmic quest, higher learning, travel, anything that opens your mind and broadens your perspective on life. 10th house is the career zone. It's how you make your mark on the world. It's how ambitious you are. It's your ambitions. So you can see here, actually Gaga has her has Saturn in her 10th house, which is one of the reasons, amongst other things, why she's such a hard worker. 11th house, friends and wishes. Okay, it's the thing wished for, and it's also your friendships. And the 12th house is the house of self-sabotage. It's the deep and dark house, but it's also the house of spirituality. Okay, so I've got a list of the houses as a PDF below, but you'll also get all this information in the book. However, what I couldn't explain in the book is what I'm explaining here, because it's a little bit complicated to explain in writing. So now, as you can see, Gaga has 12 houses like you've got 12 houses. Everybody's got 12 houses in their chart, okay? No matter which house system you use, although I use equal house system, just for the record. So the first thing you need to know when you want to know where Mercury is retrograde in your chart, okay, the first thing you need to know is you need to know which sign it's in, okay? So in this book, the Mercury retrograde book, coming your way soon, in the back you will see we have Mercury retrograde dates, and I think it goes up to about 2030 or something like that, 2029. And so the first retrograde cycle after this book comes out will be October 31, 2019, okay? That's the first one, October 31st, 2019. Mercury will be going retrograde at 3:41 p.m. That's GMT time. We'll be going retrograde in the sign of what could that be? Scorpio. I've actually got a list of all the abbreviations here, okay? So Mercury will be going retrograde in the sign of Scorpio. Okay, so now you know that, you're halfway to knowing where Mercury is retrograde for you in your chart. Okay, the next thing you need is you need to understand these, they're called glyphs, okay? I'll just hold them up to the camera and I will again put them in the PDF as a resource. But these glyphs are what astrologers use, kind of like a shorthand. It's what we use when we're writing the signs. We use them for the planets as well, which are what those symbols were. But you do need to know these, okay? And they're very easy, or you can just look at the reference and find it on your chart. So here we go. Aries, that you can see it's the ram's horns. Taurus, it's the bull. Gemini, the twins. Cancer or moonchild, the crab. Leo, there's the lion's tail. Virgo, well, that's the virgin. Libra, the scales. Scorpio with a sting in its tail. We all have Scorpio in our chart somewhere, as you'll see in a minute. Sagittarius, the archer. Capricorn, the goat. Aquarius, the water bearer, even though it's an air sign. And Pisces, the two fish swimming in opposite directions. Okay, so we know Mercury, for the first time after this book comes out, will be going retrograde in Scorpio. Okay, and we've seen here, there is the sign, the glyph for Scorpio. So now what you do is you go to your chart and what do you think you do? You find Scorpio, okay? So let's see, what does that look like? That's two fish swimming in opposite directions. That's Pisces. That's the ram, Aries, on the second house. That's Taurus on the third house. Gemini on the fourth house. Moonchild, Cancer on the fifth house. Leo on the sixth house. Virgo on the seventh house. So we know that. I told you that's the love zone. So she loves like a Virgo. So she's probably quite picky in relationships and a bit critical. Just saying. Libra on the 8th house, and there is Scorpio. Can you see? It's the same glyph. Okay? We've got Scorpio here with the sting in the tail, and we've got Scorpio here. Scorpio, Scorpio. So we know Mercury is retrograde in the sign of Scorpio. So then we look at the house there, okay? We look at the house. It's the 9th house, all right? So what does the 9th house talk about? Travel, study, and the great cosmic quest, broadening the mind, gaining perspective, as I said, okay? But that's reading from the PDF I'll give you. So Mercury going backwards in the 9th house, what could that mean, for example? Well, one really obvious thing would be traveling back, because the 9th house is about travel, traveling back to somewhere you've been before, or Or it could be about going on holidays and having a bit of chaotic time because Mercury's going back in your travel zone at the time that you're traveling. Or, for example, it's the house of higher learning, okay? So it could be going back to a course of study, or it could be you've got to be extra careful if you're studying right now because Mercury's going backwards in your 9th house, so there could be chaos, okay? So that's basically it. Now, I'm just going to give you a couple of other examples. Okay, so for the next chart, I couldn't help it. I decided let's do Bradley Cooper since we just did Lady Gaga. So let me show you Bradley's chart. I'm using several different styles of charts so you can get used to the fact that not all charts look exactly the same. So this is Bradley Cooper's chart, okay? There's the sun, he's a Capricorn. He's got Sagittarius rising and his moon's in Libra, okay? Now, what we want to know is where will Mercury retrograde in October 2019 be in his chart, okay? It's going to be retrograde in the sign of Scorpio. So we have to look at his chart. You can see it's got the houses there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Note that the houses always go counterclockwise. So what we're looking for is Scorpio in his chart. So we've got Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Moonchild, Leo, Virgo, Libra. Oh, and there is Scorpio. Can you see the little Scorpio glyph? Okay, it's right there. So we know that in October 2019, Mercury will be going backwards in Scorpio, which is Bradley Cooper's 11th house. Now, what does the 11th house relate to? Well, you might ask. It relates to friends, social circles, groups and clubs, wishes and spiritual aspirations, okay? So the obvious thing is Mercury brings the past back to the future. It could be easily seeing an old friend that he hasn't seen for a long time. That would be a very simple thing. Maybe he'll go back and see some old friends of his when Mercury's retrograde. It could be upsets with a friend, confusion, all the Mercury retrograde things like confusion, mix-ups, misunderstandings, all that with a friend. It could also be that something he wished for a long time ago, he could suddenly start to want that again. Or a wish that he made under a previous Mercury retrograde could finally come true. Okay, so I'll leave all that to your imagination. So, okay, third and last one, just to give you the hang of it, okay? It doesn't matter what your rising sign is, where your sun is or your moon is. All you need to understand is that there are the 12 houses and then figure out which house Scorpio rules, okay? So here we have the chart of the founder of my fantastic publishers, Louise Hay. Louise Hay, amazing, amazing woman. And just for the record, she was a Libran with Leo rising and the moon in, by the looks of it, Scorpio, kind of giving the game away a bit there. So we need to find out where's Scorpio, okay? So we've got Gemini, Cancer, Moonchild, Leo. For those of you who don't know, I call the sign Cancer Moonchild. I just do. I just like it better. Leo, Virgo, Libra. Guess where? Scorpio. So Scorpio is in her, what house is it? 1, 2, 3, 4. Scorpio is in her 4th house. Now, sadly, the amazing Louise Hay is no longer with us. She passed away a couple of years ago. But anyone who has Scorpio going back in their 4th house, as per this chart, 4th house, what's it going to mean? Well, what's the 4th house all about? That's what you need to know. So you look at your little report. 4th house, home and family, where you feel you belong, emotional foundations, being settled. Okay, so it's basically home and family. So what's going to happen when Mercury goes backwards in your 4th house? You're very likely to take a trip back in time because it's the emotional foundations of your chart. It could be a time of mix-up with family. It could be a time when you move back into your old house, or back to your old town. It's basically going to take you back to things to do with your personal life, with home and family, and there could be mix-ups to do with home and family. So that's basically how it works. I hope I've explained it. I'm just going to recap one last time, okay? So what you need to do is you need to print your chart out, and then you need, I'm going to use my chart actually. So let's do one last time what you need to do. So what you need to do is you need to print your chart out, okay, and you need to look at the numbers in the center on this chart. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so just locate the houses on your chart, and then you need to find the sign of Scorpio. There it is, okay. Scorpio on this chart is the 4th house, and then you refer to the description of the houses. 4th house is home and family. And that is how you tell where Mercury is retrograde in your natal chart, which is based on your time and date and place of birth. So it will always give you a much more accurate reading than just reading your horoscopes. I have nothing against horoscopes, but looking at your personal chart will always be more accurate. And I just want to say thank you again for buying my book. I hope you love it. If you've got any questions, just drop me a line, care of my website, yasminboland.com. Have a lovely day.